Welcome to another episode of Talking Water with SwitchwaterSupplier.com. I've got Graham Mann from SwitchwaterSupplier.com alongside me. Hello, Graham.
Hi.
Hi. I like that. It felt like being on telly. Hi. So we're talking water. We're talking an update of what was a really big story from the last time you were with us, which was around the water in Hartlepool. And the big question was, is Hartlepool running out of water? And you've been on the radio, this newfangled radio thing they have these days. You've been up on the BBC telling the story, and actually, we've got a big result out of it.
Fantastic result. It was beyond my wildest dreams, but we challenged the water company, Anglian Water. We were interviewed by BBC Teesside with two S's, and
got to be careful with that. I know. Well, let's just talk about the story once again. So the story was that you were negotiating contract for a new factory that was been built, a processing plant,
new water supply,
new water supply, and Anglian Water, who for some reason run Hartlepool's water, they said you can't have your 60 cubic meters a day. We can only really allow you to have 20, and you'll be lucky if you get that. So that was a story which did lead to the question, as my old friend Gary Phillips has said on BBC Tees, is Hartlepool running out of water? And are any kind of new businesses moving into Hartlepool going to be stuck with this again, that there is no water available? And that was a question that you raised. And to be fair to them, Anglian Water spoke to Gary on the radio as well.
Yeah, it was a fantastic result. It was a really good interview. I really enjoyed it. It's quite factual and informative for the general public in the area, but I'm glad we did it because it brought to the public's attention, the wider public and the business world, that there are issues and challenges for water. It's a diminishing resource, but they offered us 20 cubic meters and we needed 60 for production. As it happens, Anglian Water did respond positively, factually, and again, it was a really good reply. But they are actually going to be having challenges and restrictions in the future because their licences for abstraction are up for renewal from the Environment Agency that handles and manages the water resources for the UK, looking like that they're going to be reducing the amount of water that they can actually abstract. But from a positive perspective, the gentleman from Anglian Water suggested that the 20 cubic metres on offer has now been increased to 60 cubic metres. So what a result.
Ask the question and you get it back. Or maybe just as we have done here, raise it in the media, get it into the local media, particularly on Teesside, and you can get a result like that where a company that was going to try and, didn't really know how it was going to get its water for its production, now gets its 60 cubic metres. But two things from this, I think. One is fair play to Anglian Water. They came on the radio, they had a chat about things. They were there to be questioned, and they answered, I think, pretty well most of the questions that were asked of them. But also, when it was like a case of, is Hartlepool running out of water, the answer was no. But actually, further down the line, it was like, we're all going to be running out of water soon because, as you say, it's not an infinite resource. No.
It's our market particularly is driven by water sustainability now. So it's focusing the businesses, focusing the minds on sustainability and conserving a valuable resource. But on that note, really, I think the message needs to go out to construction companies, investments, and businesses that are investing within, say, the Hartlepool area. I really think that they ought to be looking at the water situation first before making a decision as to whether or not they put in for planning for these large scale or small scale manufacturing sites. Because if the water's not there, it's not there, and then you do have an issue. So I think the groundwork needs to be done first, and we would encourage businesses or investment portfolios, if they're looking to invest in Hartlepool, I really think that that they need to focus on the availability of water supplies and wastewater discharge as well, because sooner or later, you can't be discharging tens, maybe even hundreds of cubic metres of wastewater down the drain. That's going to overload the system. So there's a lot to consider. And don't just think the water's going to be available when you put a spade in the ground, because it's just shown that it obviously isn't in some areas.
Yeah, and if you've built your factory and you think, well, the water's going to be easy, it might be another one of those things you've got on your tick list before you, like you say, you put a spade in the ground. If you want to listen to Graham's interview with BBC Tees and the reaction from Anglian Water, we'll put that on. It'll be on your LinkedIn, I think, on the website as well, so people can have a look. It's on BBC Sounds for the next month or so, if you want to dig that one out. It's Gary Phillipson up in the northeast, and I think it just shows as well that the local media, what we're doing here, but also raising things in the local media, can really get things changed, get things moved on. So
Absolutely.
a company there who thought that they were going to lose out massively, you've worked for them on their behalf with switchwatersupplier.com.
Yeah, I mean, I let the customer know straight away, and he was absolutely delighted. So, and we've got a site meeting on Monday with Anglian Water and the customer to go over the technicalities of the infrastructure, and we can let the Anglian Water surveyor know that we've gone from 20 to 60. He may not be aware of that, but
you have to play him the interview. So yes, it's fine. They've said it already, but these things may well come up again, and so businesses do need to be aware that water is going to be something that they're going to be paying a lot more for, generally, but also it's going to be something that really needs to be part of your everyday planning for your business.
Absolutely. Yeah, well, water's it's not a finite resource, so don't assume it is, because in a lot of cases it's not. So, we'll have to keep our eye on other water companies and see what their water demands are like, and whether or not there's any potential restrictions in those areas. All
part of the scrutiny that when you're looking at different contracts, that the fine eye of Graham Mann from switchwatersupplier.com, the fine-tooth comb, you might say.
Yeah, absolutely.
You might go through contracts. But again, you're working in the industry. This was something that stood out for you as very, very odd, very strange, never seen it before. And if the company hadn't been working with you, then they might have just put their hands up and gone, well, we're going to have to suck it and see, or it might not work at all.
Well, on the table, I still think there's a possibility of taking treated wastewater from Anglian Water. That's still on the cards. I've got to make further investigations with various people within Anglian Water to see if they can actually provide treated wastewater. It'd be interesting if they can, what the costs of the increased infrastructure are to support that. But more importantly, is it going to be cheaper than clean potable water, or is it going to be more expensive because it's been treated, and and the cost of treating it are added on to the supply cost? I don't know, but what we need is supply reliability. And another point I'd like to make as well is that how many businesses out there have actually got a strategy with regards to shortages of supply. If your business was suddenly told we can't have 50 cubic meters a day, you can only have 10 at certain times of the day because of increased demand, what would the effect be for your business? Have you got an emergency plan to cover in the event of supply failure? And this is, again, one specific area comes to mind is the care home sector, who do rely on water, as most businesses do. And there have been times with a couple of care home portfolios that we deal with where water has failed, and it's been intermittent, and they have pressure problems, and that's created absolute mayhem in the kitchen for a start, and they've had to manage their water. I remember there's a site up in Scotland where at 4 o'clock every Friday, the water would severely diminish. The storage tanks will be running dry, and they have to manage the water, and they're just going into an evening meal. So they've had to manage that. In the end, we had to put in a new water supply, but that was a case of, in this particular area of Scotland, over the last 5 years, there's been increases in construction, residential construction, hundreds and hundreds of new homes in the immediate vicinity. There have been business parks and new businesses setting up in the immediate and on the fringes of this particular area. And there's only a specific size water main that comes from Scottish Water to feed that area, and it's becoming more and more scarce. So the Scottish Water are now having issues in supplying water in certain areas at certain times, and there's a fine balance between delivering clean, fresh, wholesome water at specific volumes. But now with the increased demand, they're talking now about having to potentially increase the size of the supply pipes. So it's really interesting. It's happening all over the place, really, but we've just got to learn from this and do the best for the customer and advise the customer the best alternatives that are out there to mitigate any damage to their business for reduced water consumption and water suppliers.
Something we all have to think about, particularly when you're running a business and a company that's using so much water. You're going to have to watch your contracts, watch your water use, and think about how you're going to effectively use your water supply in future. Keep up to date with more information and news from the water industry with switchwatersupplier.com and Talking Water. We'll see you next time.
Bye for now.